An extraordinarily rare and extremely significant archaeological discovery has been unearthed in Jerusalem.
When a team of researchers used advanced AI scanners on the Temple Mount, they expected to find ancient stones and hidden tunnels, but not this.
One of our reliable sources told us that there's this ancient, mysterious tunnel running 40 feet underground the old city of Jerusalem.
The AI picked up something strange deep beneath the sacred site. A sealed doorway that no record in history ever mentioned. Experts were stunned. Some even warned it should never be opened.
The Temple Mount in Jerusalem has never been excavated, but an illegal construction project 20 years ago opened the door to some major discoveries.
What could be behind it? A forgotten chamber? Lost treasures? Or something far more mysterious? What the scanners revealed next shocked the entire archaeological world and raised chilling questions about what's really buried under the Temple Mount. The Temple Mount, heart of heaven and earth. In the heart of the old city of Jerusalem lies a plateau of stone and silence that has borne the prayers, wars, and tears of humankind for nearly 3 millennia. To stand upon the Temple Mount is to stand at the crossroads of heaven and history, a place where faith, politics, and memory collide with timeless intensity.
There's going to be another ceremony, I'm sure, on the Mount of Olives, and that will be probably the ashes that'll be used more directly on the building of the temple.
Here, each stone seems to whisper the stories of prophets and kings, conquerors and pilgrims, all drawn by an invisible gravity that binds the sacred and the earthly together. The Temple Mount, known in Hebrew as Har Habayit and in Arabic as Haram al-Sharif, is more than just a site. It is a symbol of humanity's search for the divine. Rising above the labyrinthine streets of Jerusalem, it commands both reverence and awe. From afar, the golden gleam of the Dome of the Rock catches the light of the sun, a beacon seen from every corner of the city. But beneath its radiance lies a foundation soaked in centuries of devotion, destruction, and rebirth. The story of the Temple Mount begins around the 10th century BCE, when King Solomon built the first temple atop Mount Moriah, a site already sanctified by legend. According to Jewish tradition, it was here that Abraham prepared to sacrifice his son Isaac, demonstrating absolute faith in God. The temple that Solomon built became the spiritual and cultural heart of ancient Israel, a dwelling place of the divine presence and the center of pilgrimage for the Jewish people. For nearly 4 centuries, the first temple stood as the axis of the Hebrew world, until the Babylonian army of Nebuchadnezzar II swept through Jerusalem in 586 BCE, reducing it to ashes. The Ark of the Covenant vanished, and the people were carried into exile. Yet even in captivity, their prayers turned eastward, toward the mountain that had once held the presence of God. When the exiles returned decades later, they rebuilt their sanctuary, the Second Temple, on the same sacred ground. Expanded magnificently under Herod the Great in the 1st century BCE, it became one of the architectural wonders of the ancient world. Pilgrims from across the Mediterranean came to see its marble courtyards and gilded gates, but its splendor could not shield it from history's storms. In the year 70 CE, Roman legions under Titus besieged Jerusalem, setting the temple ablaze. Once again, the mountain was left desolate, and the Jewish people scattered. What remained was the massive retaining wall, the Western Wall, a structure of immense stone blocks that still stands today. It became a place of mourning, prayer, and hope, the last visible link to the sanctity that once crowned the mount above. Centuries later, in the 7th century CE, a new chapter began when Islam emerged on the world stage. Muslims revere Jerusalem as the destination of the Prophet Muhammad's night journey, in which he was said to have ascended to heaven from the mount's sacred rock. Under the early caliphs, Jerusalem was transformed once again. The magnificent Dome of the Rock was built in 691 CE. Its octagonal structure, wrapped in gleaming mosaics and crowned with a golden dome that still defines the city's skyline. A few decades later, the Al-Aqsa Mosque was completed nearby, becoming the third holiest site in Islam after Mecca and Medina. For Muslims, the Temple Mount, Al-Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary, is a place of peace and prayer. Within its walls, the faithful kneel in unison, facing Mecca, while the call to prayer drifts over the city's rooftops. The sanctity of this space, however, is not limited to one faith alone. It remains a point where the aspirations of three great religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, converge and often collide. For Christians, too, the Temple Mount holds profound meaning. It was here that Jesus of Nazareth taught, prayed, and challenged the money changers who profited from the temple's rituals. The Gospels describe him walking through its courtyards, foretelling its destruction, a prophecy fulfilled within a generation. In Christian thought, the fall of the temple symbolized both an end and a beginning, the closing of one covenant and the opening of another. Throughout history, this small hilltop has been conquered, destroyed, and rebuilt countless times by Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, Byzantines, Arabs, Crusaders, Ottomans, and modern nations. Each empire sought to claim it, each faith sought to define it. Yet despite wars and ruins, the mountain endures, a silent witness to humanity's relentless pursuit of the divine. In the modern era, the Temple Mount remains one of the most volatile and sensitive locations on Earth. When Israel captured East Jerusalem in 1967, it took control of the mount but allowed Jordan's Islamic Waqf to continue administering it. This delicate balance, Israel maintaining security, the Waqf managing the religious affairs, has prevented open conflict, but it has also fueled endless political tension. Even the smallest action, a dig, a prayer, a visit, can ignite outrage or violence. Despite its history of conflict, the Temple Mount is not just a relic of the past, it is a living, breathing symbol of faith. Every day, the area teems with pilgrims and tourists, each carrying their own story, their own connection to the divine. Jews gather at the western wall below, pressing notes of prayer into its cracks. Above them, Muslim worshippers fill the courtyards of Al-Aqsa, their voices rising in rhythmic unity. Christians, meanwhile, wander through nearby streets, retracing the final steps of Christ. Nowhere else in the world does faith converge so densely or history weigh so heavily on a single hill. To walk across the Temple Mount is to feel time blur, ancient stones beneath your feet, chants echoing from every direction, the scent of incense mingling with the dry Jerusalem air. It is a place where the past breathes through the present, and where every silence feels like a conversation with eternity. The Temple Mount is, above all, a mirror. It reflects both the greatness and the fragility of human faith. It shows how devotion can inspire art, architecture, and compassion, yet also how the same passion can kindle division and war. The mountain stands unchanging, while humanity continues to wrestle with its meaning. The AI scan of the century. In 2025, a quiet scientific project began with one simple mission: to digitally preserve the Temple Mount in its entirety. The operation was presented as a cultural and historical effort, a collaboration between local archaeologists, international preservation agencies, and advanced AI laboratories. Their objective was not exploration, but conservation. Using non-invasive methods, they planned to scan every layer of stone, from the visible walls to the deep bedrock, to create a permanent 3D model of the mount before erosion and time erased more of its past. The process used an array of cutting-edge tools: multi-frequency LiDAR, quantum-penetrating radar, and machine learning software capable of reconstructing buried architecture from reflected signals. The technology could see through layers of earth without disturbing a single grain of sand, a necessity in one of the most sensitive archaeological zones in the world. For weeks, the scans revealed nothing unexpected. The AI identified known structures, old retaining walls, collapsed Roman chambers, remnants of water channels, and faint traces of Crusader foundations. Everything matched previously published research, until one night, it didn't. A new data pattern appeared in the model, a perfect geometric anomaly. It wasn't random or fractured like natural rock. It was symmetrical. The readings came from more than 60 feet below the southeastern section of the compound, far deeper than any mapped structure. At first, the analysts assumed it was a sensor glitch or a computational error. But when the data was cross-checked across multiple frequencies, the same shape reappeared, a smooth arch leading into a rectangular void. When the AI's predictive model reconstructed the full shape, the team fell silent. It appeared to be an entrance, a sealed doorway buried beneath layers of solid stone. Additional analysis only deepened the mystery. The orientation of the feature didn't align with any known temple foundation or historical tunnel system. It mirrored an architectural ratio seen in descriptions of Solomon's first temple. Yet, it sat far below any construction known from that era. The deeper the team looked, the more the anomaly defied explanation. The data was submitted to the Oversight Committee, which immediately flagged it as classified. Excavations beneath the mount are forbidden. Any disturbance could spark international outrage. Even digital exploration was considered risky. But under tight security and restricted access, further scans were approved to confirm or disprove what the AI had found. The new scans returned astonishing results. The supposed doorway was now visible in high resolution, framed by massive limestone blocks. Traces of metal lined its edges, faint but measurable. The material didn't match ancient bronze or iron. It was stronger, denser, and seemingly resistant to corrosion. For centuries, theologians have debated whether tunnels or hidden rooms might exist beneath the mount. Old writings spoke of chambers of silence built to protect sacred relics, but those were dismissed as myth until now. As dawn broke over Jerusalem, the analysts stared at the final render, a perfect stone arch buried in darkness, untouched for thousands of years. It could have been a forgotten storehouse, a ritual chamber, or simply a geological coincidence. But the AI's classification file contained one last annotation, a single line automatically generated by its structural algorithm. Detected. Formation resembles sealed threshold. Purpose, containment. To most, it was a meaningless technical note. But to those who saw the data, it carried a weight that words could not measure, a quiet warning from the depths of history. A history written in stone. Long before machines and sensors began mapping the earth beneath Jerusalem, legends already whispered of hidden chambers below the Temple Mount. For over 3,000 years, this elevated plateau, known in Hebrew as Har Habayit and in Arabic as Al-Haram al-Sharif, has been revered as the most sacred ground in the ancient world. Every empire that touched it left behind a layer of history, like sediment built upon faith and conflict. According to biblical tradition, it was here that King Solomon built the first temple around the 10th century BCE, a structure said to house the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest containing the stone tablets of the Ten Commandments. The temple was the spiritual heart of Israel, where priests performed ancient rituals and pilgrims gathered from distant lands. Its construction was described in remarkable detail. Walls plated with cedar and gold, an inner sanctuary known as the Holy of Holies, and beneath it, a foundation of quarried limestone said to extend deep into the mountain itself. That first temple stood for nearly 4 centuries before it was destroyed by the Babylonians in 586 BCE. In its ruins, countless artifacts were lost, including, as some believe, the Ark itself. The mount then lay desolate for decades, until the Second Temple rose under the rule of Zerubbabel, and later expanded by Herod the Great into one of the most magnificent architectural feats of the ancient world. Herod's engineers carved immense retaining walls and filled the natural slopes with tons of stone, creating the vast rectangular platform that still defines the Temple Mount today. Below that platform ran an intricate network of tunnels, cisterns, and chambers, not all of which have ever been mapped. Modern archaeology has confirmed only fragments of that underground world. A handful of tunnels, such as Warren's Shaft and the Western Wall tunnels, offer glimpses of the foundations that once supported the temple complex. Yet vast areas beneath remain forbidden to excavate, sealed off by layers of religious and political sensitivity. Every stone beneath the surface is not just ancient, it's sacred, and any interference risks igniting global controversy. Still, ancient texts suggest that what lies below may be more than simple infrastructure. The Book of Kings and later rabbinical writings refer to hidden chambers where temple treasures and records were stored. The Mishnah mentions passageways where priests moved unseen beneath the temple courts, and scattered medieval accounts describe travelers who claimed to see blocked tunnels leading under the mount, guarded by warnings not to proceed further. One 12th century manuscript, preserved in fragments in the archives of a European monastery, spoke of a gate beneath the foundation of the mount, sealed with bronze, to guard that which was hidden from men. Most historians dismissed it as symbolic language. Yet, in light of the new AI scans, such passages began to attract renewed attention. When the imaging data revealed a possible arched structure buried deep beneath the southeastern section, scholars quietly began revisiting old blueprints and maps drawn during the British Mandate era. In 1867, Charles Warren, a British engineer, had explored several tunnels near the mount's lower levels. He reported strange masonry patterns that terminated abruptly as though once leading to a sealed entrance. His findings were set aside, partly due to local resistance and partly because technology then couldn't probe further. Now, over 150 years later, the AI data appeared to align with those same forgotten sketches. The geometry of the anomaly matched almost perfectly with the uncharted section Warren had once described, a void beneath the mount, never reached by human hands. As the evidence grew, historians grew cautious. No excavation could ever be authorized under the mount. The mere suggestion of digging risked inflaming one of the most volatile religious fault lines on the planet. Officially, all findings remained classified as non-confirmed digital anomalies. But privately, discussions intensified among experts. If the readings were genuine, the structure might predate Herod's expansion entirely, meaning it could belong to an earlier unknown phase of the temple's history. Some theorized it might even originate from the First Temple period, built long before the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem. Others proposed a simpler explanation, a long-sealed water cistern or storage chamber misidentified by the AI's pattern recognition. Yet one troubling detail resisted every attempt at dismissal. The material signature detected around the supposed doorway. The metallic residue lining the seams was unlike any known ancient alloy. Its magnetic response and density readings were higher than iron, yet it showed no corrosion typical of bronze or steel. Scientists struggled to explain how such a substance could exist beneath layers dated to over 2,000 years old. In the following weeks, the scans were reviewed, reprocessed, and verified by independent analysts. The anomaly persisted in every dataset. Each model showed the same thing, a deliberate, symmetrical form, buried deep and entirely sealed. The official report concluded cautiously. Subsurface geometry detected. Anthropogenic pattern probable. Further study is not recommended due to site sensitivity, but among those who had seen the unfiltered data, a quiet unease spread, because the shape beneath the mount didn't look like a cistern or tunnel. It looked like a doorway, and it had remained hidden since the dawn of recorded history. The hidden structure. In the weeks that followed, the discovery remained locked behind encrypted servers and sealed reports. Officially, the data was under verification, but everyone involved knew that was code for buried indefinitely. Still, in the quiet halls of research labs and late-night video conferences, the small team responsible for the scan couldn't let it go. The anomaly beneath the Temple Mount refused to be ignored. A decision was made unofficially and without public announcement to conduct a secondary digital survey, deeper and sharper than before. The idea was to gather new data without physical intrusion, so as not to violate religious or political restrictions. Using a combination of muon imaging and multi-angle radar inversion, the team would attempt to see what the original scan could not: the full shape of the void and the composition of its boundary. Muon imaging, a relatively new technology, measures cosmic particles that pass naturally through stone. These particles, when captured by sensitive detectors, can reveal density differences invisible to conventional radar. Over the course of 3 nights, a quiet operation unfolded under the cover of routine maintenance work. Portable sensors were placed at strategic points around the compound, collecting millions of data points while the city above slept. The results, once processed through the AI system, left even the most skeptical scientists silent. The void was no longer an abstract blur, it was a chamber. The AI reconstructed it as an oblong room, roughly 20 meters in length and 5 meters in height, positioned at a slight angle beneath the southeastern retaining wall. The chamber's symmetry was unmistakable. It had straight walls, a vaulted ceiling, and most disturbingly, a solid barrier at one end resembling a sealed door. Measurements showed that the structure's internal surfaces were unnaturally smooth, unlike the rough-hewn rock typical of ancient tunnels. The AI detected traces of carved markings along the interior walls, but the resolution was too low to determine what they represented. When the radar reflection data was layered atop the muon image, a faint metallic outline appeared, the same strange alloy previously recorded, but now forming what looked like hinges or locking mechanisms. To the analysts, the pattern looked deliberate, purposeful, designed. When the data was presented to the Oversight Committee, the reaction was swift and divided. Several members demanded an immediate halt, arguing that the findings were speculative and that further imaging risked destabilizing the site's delicate political balance. Others urged deeper analysis, noting that the structure might hold significant archaeological value if confirmed. The debate grew heated, then quietly resolved the project would continue, but under strict secrecy and limited access. Only a handful of people would ever see the next phase of data. In the following days, the AI's predictive algorithms were reconfigured to simulate interior lighting, reconstructing how the chamber might appear if entered. The rendered image that emerged was haunting, a long, narrow passage descending slightly, the walls lined with smooth stone blocks, and at the far end, a sealed doorway framed by massive pillars, each carved from a single slab of limestone. But one small detail caught everyone's attention. Just above the arch, partially obscured by erosion or time, the scan revealed faint linear impressions, markings that resembled writing. No known language was immediately identifiable. The strokes were sharp and angular, formed in repeating geometric patterns. Linguistic experts brought in under confidentiality suggested that part of the script bore similarities to ancient Paleo-Hebrew. but other symbols seemed unrelated to any known alphabet. It was as though two distinct writing systems had been merged into one. One human, one undecipherable. As the AI tried to enhance the text through pattern recognition, something unexpected occurred. The system began generating automated context predictions, a feature designed to estimate the semantic meaning of ancient inscriptions. Normally, it would return probability fields or rough translations. This time, however, it produced only one phrase. "This is the gate that shall not awaken." At first, the scientists assumed it was a misinterpretation, the AI overfitting its linguistic model. But when they reprocessed the data using a completely different translation module, the same phrase appeared again, word for word. The phrase was entered into the report under the notes section with a disclaimer: possible AI hallucination, linguistic confidence below threshold. Yet unease lingered among the team. Late one night, while the data visualization ran unattended, the AI's anomaly detection engine triggered an alert. It began producing strange error codes, fragments of broken language, containment, breach risk, boundary interference. The words made no technical sense, but they appeared in the same data field that analyzed electromagnetic variants around the supposed door. Moments later, the monitoring system froze. The entire model went dark, as if the chamber itself had rejected observation. By morning, the technicians had restored the files, but part of the log was gone, erased or overwritten. The last line before the blackout was short and unambiguous. Anomaly detected, signal reflection consistent with harmonic source. In simpler terms, it meant that something inside the sealed chamber was resonating, emitting a faint rhythmic pulse. It wasn't sound. It wasn't electricity. It was something else entirely. And for the first time since the scans began, no one wanted to know what it was. The unsealing. Officially, the project was still classified as a digital preservation study, but behind the scenes it had evolved into something far more dangerous and far less scientific. The AI's final readings had introduced a word no researcher wanted to see in a structural report: resonance. Something beneath the Temple Mount wasn't just reflecting energy, it was reacting to it. The data shouldn't have been possible. The signals that came back from the sealed chamber pulsed at precise intervals, steady, rhythmic, and almost biological. At first, the team thought it was interference from nearby construction or underground wiring. But the frequency didn't match any man-made source. It came from deep within the void, directly behind the door-shaped formation. The discovery created a quiet panic. Some demanded the study be stopped entirely. Others, driven by curiosity, saw an unprecedented opportunity, a chance to uncover the oldest untouched chamber beneath the most sacred site on Earth. After a week of internal debate, a decision was made to send in a micro-drone probe. It was barely larger than a coin, equipped with an ultrasonic emitter and a fiber optic camera thin as a strand of hair. The drone would be guided through one of the microscopic fissures in the bedrock, avoiding physical contact with the structure itself. Its mission: capture visual confirmation of what the AI had detected. The operation took place in complete secrecy, long after midnight. Only a handful of individuals were present in the monitoring room as the first images flickered onto the screen, blurred, grainy, coated in millennia of dust. Then, slowly, the camera adjusted. A corridor appeared, narrow, perfectly carved, its walls smooth and reflective under the infrared beam. The air inside was thick with suspended particles, but no sign of collapse or decay. The drone advanced several meters before stopping at what the AI had predicted: a massive door half covered in mineral deposits framed by a stone arch. The image froze for a moment as the feed stabilized. Every detail matched the scans: the limestone blocks, the faint metallic seams, even the strange markings above the arch. But now, Under infrared, another layer became visible. Fine etchings that seemed to shimmer faintly, as if reacting to light. The operator adjusted the exposure, zooming in on the symbols. They weren't random scratches, they formed a circular sequence, repeating in mathematical precision. The outermost ring bore characters similar to ancient Hebrew. The inner ring, completely unfamiliar. Then, without warning, the feed glitched. Static rolled across the monitor. For a moment, the audio picked up a low hum, not mechanical, but deep, almost tonal, like a vibration traveling through the stone itself. And then, Sile. The drone signal cut off completely. Every system in the control room froze. Power fluctuations rippled through the equipment, tripping emergency safeguards. It took several minutes to restore the system. When the feed finally returned, the image showed nothing but dust and static. The drone was gone. The official report described the event as mechanical failure due to magnetic interference. But those who were present told a different story. They said the signal didn't simply die. It was pulled away, as if something on the other side had absorbed it. The following morning, all drone operations were suspended. The lab's network access was locked. The incident was never discussed publicly, and no images were released. Yet one technician, before the servers were wiped, saved a single corrupted frame from the feed. The still image was blurry and distorted, but one detail remained visible: a thin, vertical slit running down the center of the stone door, glowing faintly with reflected light. It was impossible to tell whether the door had moved or if something behind it had begun to move instead. Within 24 hours, seismic monitors across Jerusalem recorded a brief, low-frequency tremor centered directly beneath the mount. It lasted less than 30 seconds, too minor to cause damage, but strong enough to register. Officially, it was dismissed as a natural shift in bedrock, but in the lab's final report, buried deep in encrypted archives, one unread line remained in the AI log file. Containment integrity unstable. Pattern shift detected. The silence beneath. Days passed, and the tremor was forgotten by most. But within the research circle, silence settled like a weight. Every attempt to re-access the imaging data failed. The encrypted servers showed corrupted files, as if the information itself had decayed. No backup worked. Even the AI model that had processed the scans refused to reload, producing only one error line again and again. Access denied, source locked. The project was quietly dissolved. Funding pulled. Staff reassigned. Official statements labeled it a technical malfunction and nothing more. Yet those who had seen the images couldn't forget. A few, haunted by the event, began sharing fragments through encrypted channels, blurry screenshots, corrupted readouts, and whispered accounts of what the final signal had shown before vanishing. The rumors spread quietly through archaeological networks that beneath the Temple Mount, an ancient chamber had been found. Not a tomb, not a vault, but something older, something sealed on purpose. Unofficial seismic scans weeks later revealed a curious pattern. Deep under the mount, the ground emitted faint but rhythmic vibrations. They weren't constant, just a slow pulse, repeating at intervals too precise to be random, like a heartbeat. Attempts to explain it scientifically failed. Some said it was a resonance caused by underground aquifers or old structural stress. Others, less certain, thought the frequency was too deliberate, too alive. Meanwhile, one technician, the same who had saved the single frame before deletion, began studying it in private. Through careful enhancement, she noticed something everyone had missed. In the faint glow along the slit of the stone door, reflected shapes appeared. Not carvings, not artifacts. Forms, vague silhouettes. as though something stood just beyond the threshold, facing the camera, motionless. When she tried to enhance the image further, her system froze, then shut down completely. The file was gone. Soon after, she left her position, refusing to speak publicly again. In the months that followed, excavation requests near the mount were denied. The AI system used for the scans was dismantled and its dataset erased from the archives. But deep below Jerusalem's oldest stones, the resonance never stopped. Even now, when sensors sweep too close to the southeastern foundation, their readings flicker for a moment, a low, rhythmic pulse that fades as quickly as it appears. As if something ancient is still waiting. Just behind the door, no one was meant to open. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.